what's more likely? Peter, you haven't played this game yet. We kind of have a selection of like the Price is Right type games that we play. And so what's more likely today? I'll throw out the proposition. And just to be clear, there is no middle ground. It's one or the other. A lot of times you're going to be tempted option C, option D. It's one or the other. And let's begin with this one. What's more likely? Laramie Tunsil stays with the Texans or Jadeveon Clowney stays with Seattle. Chris Sims, what's more likely?
Okay, what's more likely? I think
that's the easiest thing in the world.
It is the easiest thing.
I said Chris.
Yes, be quiet, Mr. King, okay? I will go with Laramie Tunsil saying...
Pick me! Please pick me!
Yes, Laramie Tunsil with the Texans is the one I would bet on. I mean, yeah, Jadeveon Clowney has got a very real possibility of being a one-year rental. And it's a guy that we talked about, had microfracture surgery in his past. So that's going to scare teams. The Dolphins are going to look stupid if they trade what they traded for Laramie Tunsil and let him walk out the door after 1 year.
Hey, Peter, let me give it a little twist.
Okay.
Because I think I know what you've already tipped your answer. Laramie Tunsil and Kenny Stills stay with the Texans, or Jadeveon Clowney stays with the Seahawks. What's more likely there?
Tunsil and Stills stay with the Texans, because I think once Stills gets on this team, even though he's going to enrage the flag-waving fans of Houston by kneeling during the national anthem or staying in the locker room for the national anthem, I think he's going to become a very reliable piece of that offense as a third or fourth receiver. He'll catch 45 balls. He'll play 35 snaps every week. He'll practice every day. He doesn't get hurt. And that is why I think he comes back in 2020.
And I agree with both of you. I think that this is the no-brainer, whether it's Tunsil alone or Tunsil and Stills. They have to keep these guys. They've given up too much to get them. Jadeveon Clowney very well may be a one-year rental for the Seahawks, and the better he plays for the Seahawks, the more expensive he's going to be for the Seahawks to keep him. So the more they would want him, the more they're going to have to pay to keep him. And the smart move for the Seahawks would be halfway through the season, they decide, hey, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah.
Maybe you buy low before he really breaks out in the postseason. But I agree. As framed, no-brainer. Tunsil stays with the Texans and throw Stills in. He stays too, more likely than Clowney staying in Seattle. All right, next up, we'll start with Peter. What's more likely, the Chiefs return to the AFC Championship game or the Saints return to the NFC Championship game? What's more likely?
Well, since I picked them both to make the Super Bowl, I'm going to say the Chiefs anyway, because I picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. I just think right now they are the most dangerous offense in football. Mike, I don't know. I'm sure it has happened before, but I don't remember a team that could have, on a given play on the field at the same time, three wide receivers who all ran under 4.35 in the 40.
Right.
And adding McCole Hardman to Watkins and Hill, I just think, how possibly are you going to cover all these guys? Now, Sammy Watkins, obviously history of injury.
Right.
McCole Hardman, we just don't know yet. But I'm saying that potentially this Kansas City offense is going to be impossible to stop.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Peter. I'm going the Chiefs. If you make me pick one, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. First off, listen, the Saints, I really think they're going to be a really good football team. I don't doubt that. I do wonder if they can bounce back from the 2 years of heartbreak, just let that. But I'm with Peter's thought of this offense in Kansas City special. I mean, it really is. It has a chance to be better than last year. And now you add a LaShawn McCoy. We know Damian Williams. Peter mentioned all the speed of receiver. Travis Kelce's not even in that conversation when you talk about that. And then I do think the defense, it can only go up. I mean, the defense stunk last year. They were horrible. And I do think they made proper adjustments to their roster along with Spagnuolo as a defensive coordinator. So I go Chiefs there all the way.
How big of a bump is the acquisition of LaShawn McCoy, Peter?
I don't think he's going to be a gigantic difference. I think he's a nice add. But I think that at the end of the day, just my gut feeling, that Damian Williams is going to probably have more carries than LaShawn McCoy.
See, I think McCoy, but in my mind, when I saw that they got McCoy, I mean, that was the one area where they had yet to fully and confidently replace the Kareem Hunt production. Damian Williams has shown some potential, but you don't have that same confidence in him. You add LaShawn McCoy to that mix with all the other weapons they have, and it made me think, and I already thought the Chiefs were going to get to the AFC Championship game. Now I'm rethinking whether or not I have them going to the Super Bowl, but I agree with you guys. The Chiefs are more likely to get to the AFC Championship than the Saints to the NFC Championship. I just think that what the Saints have gone through the past 2 years, having their heart ripped out and stomped on twice, and you throw on top of it, Peter, and you know, Chris and I have been talking about this for the last 8 months. I want your thought on whether or not you think Drew Brees is maybe inching toward the point where Father Time is going to drag him down. We saw some of that last year. Are you concerned that Drew Brees is maybe going to show signs of age this season?
You know, you have to be concerned anytime you pass 40. But I just look at him, Mike, and I got a very interesting podcast dropping with him tomorrow. And we talked a little bit about that. There's no question in my mind that he wants to play multiple more years. And the way the Saints are operating, I wouldn't be surprised if they kept that Taysom Hill security blanket around and after this year let Teddy Bridgewater go. But I just think this is a multiple-year situation for Brees. And look, there's no guarantee for anybody. There's no guarantee for Brady, obviously, at his age. But I just don't see it yet with Brees. And you know what, Mike? One of the really interesting things he told me in this podcast is instead of going crazy and doing all these funky new wave workouts, of 2019, I asked him what he did in the offseason. He goes, well, you're going to like this. I spent the entire offseason playing with my kids. Tennis, soccer, football, baseball. It doesn't matter. We just played in the yard and just played. And he said, it was like I went back to the future. That's what I did when I was a kid. And I come into camp feeling fantastic. We'll see. It probably means nothing. But he sounded to me like it's a lot more likely he's going to play 3 more years than 1.
It's a big question. I mean, I'm going to be excited to see, too, because the Saints are a team that, of course, we're all in the Super Bowl window conversation. The team around him certainly is good. The offensive coordinator in Sean Payton's is one of the best there is there. So I don't think the numbers are certainly going to fall off anytime soon. And I do think, hey, for Drew Brees, 40 years old, he's still in phenomenal shape, everything like that. The big question is going to be the arm. That's really all it's going to be. I mean, we saw it towards the end of last year, right? Guys, we still know he can be surgical, he can be accurate as can be, can still move in the pocket pretty well. But can he back defenses off and take advantage of some of the big plays that are there to be had, especially when they're playing some of the better teams in football, aka the Eagles, the first game of the year, the first play of the playoff game, like you talked about, Mike. Little plays like that, I think that showed their head last year that scare us a little bit, and that's when we'll really be dissecting them this year.
That's the thing I always think of, that dialed-up throw to Ted Ginn, first play from scrimmage. They knew for a week and a half that was the play, and he couldn't get the ball to Ted Ginn, and it was intercepted, and it almost opened the floodgates for the Eagles to knock them out of the postseason. All right, one more before we break. Jacoby Brissett leads the Colts to the playoffs, or Dak Prescott leads the Cowboys to the playoffs? Peter King, what's more likely?
Jacoby Brissett leading the Colts to the playoffs.
Wow.
I think that the supporting cast of the Indianapolis Colts, 3rd best offensive line in football last year, according to Pro Football Focus, a vastly improved. They could have 3 new rookie defensive starters to a really improved defense anyway by midseason. I just think that this is a team that he is not going to have to be what he was in 2017 when he looked very mediocre. Jacoby Brissett has to be a piece of the puzzle in 2019. I like the Colts to win that division.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dak Prescott on this one. And I look at Jacoby Brissett and the Colts as being certainly in that playoff conversation. I've done my own little thing here. I'm going to have the Colts not making the playoffs, and I'm going to talk about this later on my podcast. I got to see it to believe it first. As much as I like the orchestration of that team, I still look at the Dallas Cowboys, and I do think Ezekiel Elliott's going to be back here within the next week or two, if not the next day or two, to where I just go, wow, it's just too talented of a football team for me to leave them out of the playoffs. I mean, really. I mean, the coaching messes this up if Dallas doesn't get there. Now, the Colts the same way. The only thing I look at the Colts is the AFC South is extremely hard, right? It's a very competitive division. And, Mike, I'm going to lean on something you've heard me say the last week or so since Andrew Luck did this. Andrew Luck's worth 2 wins a year. He's in the conversation for the clutchest quarterback we've seen in the game, really, last year and other years he was healthy. So I got to see Jacoby Brissett come through in those moments to where they go with 10-6 instead of 8-8, or they go 11-5 instead of 9-7, whatever it may be. So right now, if you maybe choose one of those, I'm going to go with Dak Prescott and the Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I go Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. I am taking a very measured approach with the Colts, fully cognizant of the possibility that the fact that they've fallen off everyone's radar screen and Andrew Luck's not there and we just assume they're not going to be good, that plays right into their hands. They've got no expectations.
Right.
They're not going to be that team that other teams circle in ink on their schedule. That's the Colts. We're okay now. They don't have Andrew Luck, and that is going to I think give them an opening, but I'm not ready to buy it yet. Between the two, I'm going to go Dak Prescott and the Cowboys.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.